If Texas A&M is going to beat Notre Dame, what are they going to have to do to get it done?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs have wound down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting close. We are getting really, really close to the start of the college football season. I know, don't pinch yourself. I'm not lying to you. Let's think about this. 27, right? 27 days. The Aggies are going to be, 26 because you're watching this the morning of the 5th. I'm recording the night of the 4th. 26 days, the Aggies are getting ready to play the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in what should be the best game of the weekend. College game day is going to be in town in College Station at Kyle Field for what, once again, should be the best game of the day. And this Notre Dame team is no joke. Now, I know all y'all everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know you've heard me say it time and time and time again. You've heard me say, well, Notre Dame, they're that team that's always got that preseason hype. And listen, last time I talked about Notre Dame, there's a lot of Notre Dame fans in the comments. Glad to have y'all here. Hope to see y'all a lot over the next few weeks heading into this game. Texas A&M is the same way. I'm not saying y'all aren't something that we haven't been recently as well. I think if you had an all over preseason hype team, Notre Dame and Texas A&M would be sitting drinking a beer at that ceremony. But I think that the tides have kind of flipped here. I think people are really all in on Notre Dame. They're talented. They're a good team. We're gonna really dig into that. But this Texas A&M football team is no joke, and Notre Dame has to come to Kyle Field, a place that nobody should ever want to play. Also, moving into a new house, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, setup should be really, really cool. I'm excited about it. But I'm having microphone issues today, and I'm having to record with my grandparents, and I don't have much lighting, so I apologize for that today. Wednesday, we're going to be good to go, rock and rolling with a new setup, new house. So excited about that. Just want to let y'all know that. But Notre Dame, once again, is a team that is going to come into Kyle Field and play a really good football game. And I think that a lot of people are going to pick Notre Dame to win this football game. That's fair. Now, the line is, I've seen it at a half a point. I've seen it at a point and a half in favor of Texas A&M. It's a tight line, and I believe it should be a tight line. I think this is a very, very talented Texas A&M team. Not as talented as Notre Dame, but I think the gap isn't as wide as some people are making it out to be. I think some people are acting like the difference in talent in these two football teams is through the roof. I don't think it's that way. I think there's a difference, but I don't think it's this substantial Grand Canyon type of gap. I think if you want to talk about how does Texas A&M win this football game, it's pretty simple. Connor Weigman has to play a really, really good football game. Now, the other factor that'll be huge, and it's funny because once again, if you're an everyday here Locked On Aggies, you know that I say this every single time. The offensive line also has to be really good. And looking at this Texas A&M offensive line, it's a question mark. It's a concern. But once again, you're going to have to see it we have to see it be a problem for it to be a problem. I'm concerned. I'm not going to sit here. If you're a Notre Dame fan listening, once again, appreciate having you here. And you're saying, what should I be paying attention to? What are the strengths and weaknesses of this football team? Well, an offensive line is a weakness. And that front seven and that defensive line of Notre Dame is a strength. So, I mean, here's the deal. That is a real opportunity for Notre Dame to take advantage of a position of strength of theirs and a potential position of weakness for the Aggies. So, I think what has to happen here is Connor Weigman has to play a great game, and the offensive line has to give him time. And that's why I always say we can sit here and talk about great quarterback play all you want. We can sit here and we can say, hey, great quarterback play, it's all that matters. It is all that matters. But here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Some might not like to hear this. Those offensive line haters out there, we were talking to a former offensive lineman, so I will go to war for my fellow big dogs in the trenches. But if you don't have a good offensive line, your offense is not going to hit its potential. That's not a rocket science take I just made. You got to understand, though, yes, if your offensive line is very bad, an offensive coordinator can make an offense to try and kind of work around it. You know what I mean? To kind of work around it. You can do that. But I also look at this, and I think that's not what Coach Colin Klein wants to do. I think he wants his offense to just be good. I don't think he wants to have to sit and worry about, hey, you know what? We're going to do our best, and we're going to find a way to set some guys up, and we're going to help Connor get some good throws with poor offensive line play. That's somebody who wants to do. But I do think a lot of this football game will come down to the play of the offensive line, and then after that, the play of Connor Weigman. If there's nothing he can do, and he's getting sacked in 2 seconds, there's nothing he can do. But if the offensive line's giving him time, he has got to hit his receivers. And that's, I think who wins the quarterback battle in this game will be huge. Riley Leonard, Mike Elko's old quarterback versus Connor Weigman, Mike Elko's new quarterback. It's going to be a fun narrative, fun 1v1 to really see. But if Texas A&M wants to win, they have to win the quarterback battle. I believe in Texas A&M's defense. I believe in the secondary. I know there's some question marks around the secondary. I still believe in this unit. I believe in the running backs. I believe in Connor Weigman. I believe in the receivers. I believe in the tight ends. The only concern I have that's a genuine concern is the offensive line, and that can bloom into issues for the other positions. That can turn into problems for the receivers and the running backs and Connor Weigman and the tight ends. That's where the problems come from. So where you win this football game is your offensive line is able to at least be a stalemate with the defensive line, and Connor Weigman has to play great. If your secondary doesn't do what they did last year against Miami, and you're able to have the offensive line give Connor Weigman some time, and he has a great game like he did against Miami last year, I think you win this football game. I do. And here's the deal. A lot of people are going to like Notre Dame to come into Texas A&M and win this game, and it makes sense. Notre Dame is a preseason darling. They're a team everyone imagines is going to be in the playoff. But once again, just an all-around really good football team. I like the coach. I think it's a good team. But I think that Texas A&M is also a good team, and I think Notre Dame is walking into one of the most challenging places to play in all of college football, which is not something I would be excited to do in week 1 to start the season. No, that's not how I would want to start the season if I was a coach. That is not what I would want, and that's the reality for this Notre Dame football team. So if you're Texas A&M, you got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Go out there, play your hearts out. And I think this team's going to do that. I don't think this team's going to have any issue when it comes to motivation. I think Coach Elko, Coach Klein, they're going to do a really good job at motivating this team. I don't see that being a problem for this football team. What I do potentially see being a problem is I think Notre Dame is going to be really good. So this is a football game I flat out cannot wait to break down more than we are today. Obviously, we're going to have a crossover for the Locked On crossover for this game. We're of course also going to break down position by position. I mean, it's so fun playing a great football team to start the year because we can break this game down level by level, piece by piece for a week or two before the game, and I'm really looking forward to that. This will be a fun game. It's been, I think, one of the better games all season long in college football. So I think both fan bases should be excited about this. Texas A&M can win this football game. They can. Those things have to go right for the Aggies to take down the Fighting Irish. We're going to talk a little bit about a prediction of Texas A&M's schedule, and I think there's a lot of holes in it. We're going to break it down coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So we now have to break down a preseason prediction for the Aggies from SEC Unfiltered. This is from a guy named Chris Phillips. I've been on the podcast with him before. Good guy. And he's a ball knower. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, he's just some random person writing down. I respect him. I respect his knowledge of the game, but I don't agree with what he has going on here. So he has the Aggies going 7-5 this season, 4-4 in SEC play, which, as I've told y'all, I don't see it happening. I don't look at this schedule and see 5 losses. It's hard to find. I can find 4. I don't know if I can find 5, unless this team just doesn't live up to what I think they're going to be, and that happens. I mean, how many times do we say, "Oh, there's no way this team loses more than 3 games," and then they go 7-5, and you're like, "Oh, what happened?" This stuff happens. But top to bottom, where you play the teams you play, I think it sets up for Texas A&M to win 8 football games, and with the potential of 9. So let's go game by game. We just got done talking about the Notre Dame game. SEC Unfiltered and Chris Phillips have the Aggies losing this game. Then they have a win the following week. Then they have a win over the Florida Gators. And once again, that is interesting to me because I'm a little surprised that you have. I'm not surprised. I just figured he would like Florida in this game. I've seen him tweet a lot of things, and a lot of people, and not just Chris, but I mean, a lot of people seem to be somewhat buying in on, well, Florida's a good football team. They just have a terrible schedule. And I'm starting to buy into that more too. I mean, I've said that all along. I mean, like, listen, this is a solid football team. They just play one of the most brutal schedules I've ever seen in my entire life. So that makes you 2-1. You then beat Bowling Green 3-1. Then a win over Arkansas 4-1. Then a loss to Missouri 4-2. Once again, I don't look at this. People that are predicting Texas A&M to lose to Missouri or lose to Notre Dame or lose to Texas or lose to LSU, I get it. I don't like – I'm not – I sit here and I get that. Like, that makes sense to me. I think that it is very, very possible the Aggies lose all 4 of those games. I think that there's a legit world where that does happen. Now, I also believe that there's a world where they win 2 of them. So I think it's one of those things that can go any way, which way. I think what Notre Dame has, what Missouri has, is A, a veteran quarterback, and B, one who I think might be the best player in college football in Luther Burden, the receiver. He's got, once again, can't wait to have that guy on my fantasy football team. He's going to be an absolute star in the pros. But Missouri's a good football team. I'm now buying into the hype for the future as well, and not just for this year. I'm buying into Missouri's program. I think Coach Drink's doing a good job over there. I see that going well in the future. But I think the Aggies can beat them at home this year. And once again, I can sit here, all 4 of the as you every day or your Locked On Aggies know, I keep talking about the 4 challenging home games, the 4 home games that are really going to test you. And those are, of course, Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU, and Texas. If you're able to win one or two of those games, that is when 8-4, 9-3 comes into play. If you lose all four of those games, that's when 7-5 becomes a realistic possibility. I just don't see Texas A&M at home going 0-4 in those football games. Then after that, he has the Aggies taking down Mississippi State. Once again, on the road, I agree with that. I don't see any issues there. Then a home loss against LSU. Once again, you can't yell at anybody for projecting the Aggies to lose this game. The one thing I'd say is while I really, really like Nussmeier, he is unproven. We've seen this go well before. We've seen it go not well before. It's going to go one. It's going to go one of two ways. He's going to be good or he's not going to be that good. And what he is what LSU is going to be. So if he's good, I believe LSU is going to be good. If he's not good, I think LSU is going to be still a good football team, but they get very mid very quick if he's not as good as we think he's going to be. So, I mean, I'm not fighting that. There's one loss on this and one loss on here that I don't see it happening, and that is South Carolina, even on the road. Now, I've talked about how I think South Carolina could be a sneaky team. I think they could be that team where they go like 6-6 or something, like maybe 7-5. But then you look at their losses, and it's like, man, they lost like 4 games by one possession. I'm not saying Texas A&M is going to walk into Columbia and beat South Carolina by 25, by 31 points. I mean, I'm not saying that. I think this is going to be a 28-21, 35-28 type of football game. I do not think in any way, shape, or form this game is going to be a blowout. I really like their quarterback, Lenore Sellers. I think he's going to be a player that's really good. I think he's going to break onto the scene in the SEC this season. I am a believer in that. But once again, I think that Texas A&M goes on the road. I think they're the better football team, and I think they take care of business. I think that some people might be underplaying that game a little bit. I think some people might be looking at it as, the Aggies are going to walk into Columbia and just steamroll South Carolina. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think I would. I think that South Carolina is a little bit of an underrated team. I think that they're a solid team with some good players. But I also do not believe that they're better than Texas A&M. And I believe even with Sandstorm, even with the home field advantage, I just don't see the Aggies losing that game. Now, I'll also tell you this. It is a game where I wouldn't be the most surprised human being in the world if they did lose that game. I don't want to sit here and say, Aggies are winning that game, not worried about it, because that's not true at all. If South Carolina won this game, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like, they're a good football team, but I just don't think, I don't think the Aggies lose this game. If they do, I won't be shocked, but I don't see that happening. Then a win over New Mexico State is next here, and then a road loss against Auburn. I've told y'all my thoughts on Auburn. I think Auburn's a really good team. I think that's a weird place to play. I think it's a solid environment over there. It's not like playing in Kyle Field. Playing in Jordan-Hare Stadium is not an easy place to play in the SEC. So how is Texas A&M going to be able to handle playing on the road? How are they going to be able to handle that tough environment? Because they're really not. You're going to have the Cowbells. You're going to have the Swamp. You're going to have Sandstorm and some of your other away games. But then against Auburn, you're going to have another great atmosphere. I think is probably the best, just because I think there's just more hype around the Auburn football program right now than the Florida football program. I have a feeling that game is going to be more, that the environment against Auburn is going to be crazier than the environment against Florida. And then lastly, he has the Aggies beating Texas. Once again, I think it's very possible. I've seen a lot of people starting to say, hey, maybe the Aggies can do this. Maybe the Aggies can take down Texas. The rivalry's back. It's at home. Maybe they can beat them. And once again, I'm not going to sit here and act like in any way, shape, or form I would be surprised if the Aggies won that football game. I think Texas is the better team all around. But I also think that per capita, they can win this game. I really, really do believe that. So the 7-5, I think the Aggies go. If you ask me, Andrew, what is Texas A&M's record? I think they go 8-4. I think they win one of their games at home that they're probably not supposed to, and then I think they lose to either Auburn or Florida, probably Auburn would be my guess, just based on, and that's the 8-4. But if you go 2-2 at home, or you go 2-0 against Auburn and Florida, that's when 9 wins comes into play. So I just, the South Carolina loss is the only thing on here that I have a genuine issue with. We're going to talk about the running back room and how carries might be spread around. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But the playoffs have wound down. We get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And, of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. So, I think another interesting point, we heard Coach Elko last week talk when he was talking to the media. Maybe it was 2 weeks. Whenever he talked to the media recently, I think it was last week, but it doesn't matter. Talk about how much he likes the running backs. He thinks that Texas A&M has a lot of really good running backs, and that's a great problem to have. Having four guys, Le'Veon, having Reuben Owens, having Amari Daniels, having E.J. Smith, Moss is a great player. Owens, great player. I think they're going to be the guys. Now, I also believe that there's a lot of people I see comment here on the show. I see talk about it in articles. I see it on Twitter. People saying, well, I think that Texas A&M has 4 running backs that are going to get a ton of work. And if you look at Coach Klein's numbers from last year, he had 1 running back with 223 carries, 1 running back with 124 carries. So one guy was the dude, and then one guy was, the change of pace still gets 125 carries between 12 games is still a pretty solid amount, of carries on a game-to-game basis. So the point is, Coach Klein's going to have 2 guys out there. But then after that, next running back on this list, 13 carries, 3 carries, 4 carries. Point being, the carries are going to, I think, end up pretty much being between Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens. I don't know how much time Daniels and E.J. Smith. Now, maybe Daniels takes over one of those guys. We still don't know who the guys are. I believe they'll be Reuben Owens and Le'Veon Moss. But it could be some of these other great running backs the Aggies have. Now, where you have to be excited about this room is the depth. The Aggies have a ton of depth in this room. And that is never something, as y'all that listen to the show every day know, I will never complain about depth at a position. I love when a team has some really good depth at a position, and that is what Texas A&M has at that position. So I think that really 2 guys take the bulk of the carries for the Aggies this year. Maybe. Now, could you convince me that Amari Daniels, that we talked about the third running back getting 13 carries, could you talk me into him getting 70 carries, maybe 60? Sure. You could talk me into that. And obviously, if someone were to learn with an injury, that changes drastically. But I think that the carries should be pretty much stuck between 2 guys. And I think Amari Daniels and E.J. Smith will get a little bit of work, and we'll kind of see the dynamic of this running back room. But just based on what Coach Klein did last year, I kind of think that's what you're going to see despite having such a deep and talented room. That's going to do it for Monday's episode of Locked On Aggies. Once again, hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. Sorry for the sound. My microphone was just not working. I was having issues. Got to get this recorded because I don't have any Wi-Fi at my house because they're not putting the Wi-Fi in until Tuesday morning. So I had to come to my grandparents, and we're having issues. I apologize for it. It'll all be cleaned up. Hopefully, I'll be able to deal with this for Tuesday's episode. If not, Wednesday we'll be back to normal. New background, new setup. Should be very, very exciting stuff. Appreciate y'all being here every day. Once again, hope everyone has an outstanding Monday, and we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.